Where do you
because I don't
usually
want
do
to.
these things?
We can either go to your like if you have your own private studio, we can go there, or we can film it like at theater. I've got some studio theaters that let
Or
you
we just
stay.
go, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, because if it's
I'm
not going
not
to work,
usually into talking about these things.
we appreciate it because it could be something that goes statewide. And
'Cause that's really what it boils down to. You say, what's it all about? Well, it's not all about talking about it.
well, we're trying to keep it alive is what we're trying to do by doing
Well,
these
that's a good thing,
documentaries.
but
Okay.
See, I'm worried about that.
Take a look at this. Check this. No, 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 no. Not the video's fine. It's just the audio I'm concerned about. You don't have a earphone? It's level right there.
Trevor,
testing
we may not
one,
be able to
two.
do any interviews
Testing,
at all.
testing one.
We might have to
What's
do
the
all the
background?
interviews in our studio somewhere because I don't think we can talk loud enough.
Be a lot more consistent, wouldn't it?
The ambience of what we're doing.
I know what
But
the
if it ain't
problem
gonna
is.
work,
I don't know if
we
it's
won't
going to
be able to
work.
do it.
I don't know if it's going
I'll
to
be
work.
glad to spend 30, 40 minutes with you guys.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Are you doing all the interviews? I don't want to talk to these guys.
I'm used to old school, you know. And I use headphones and big monitors and shit.
Good. One question.
We're here with Jim
Byfield. Oh,
Jim Byfield, and I'm Hannah Chaboy, and we're here talking about music today and what it means to us, what it means to you, what does it mean to you, Jim?
what's what mean?
What does music mean to you?
Music means life.
You're funny.
Music means fun. Music means happiness. Freedom.
Of course, you play the guitar, so how does that instrument any different from any others when it comes to just playing, getting up on stage and just having fun?
Well, it's no different than anything. It's just what you choose to play. I mean, friends, obviously, that play piano, drums, whatever. Just whatever God puts in your heart to play.
It's neat. I actually saw you and watched you and focused on you up there. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. But actually, it was interesting because you were really focused and serious. But I guess in that seriousness of your mode, you're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Well, I mean, you are trying to have fun. You are trying to do what feels natural, because it is natural to you. After a certain point in time, your instrument becomes you, and you become your instrument, I guess. I don't know how that sounds, but
Sounds great.
you're just trying to have fun and get everybody to have fun in the same time pattern. So nobody's dragging behind, nobody's playing too loud, everybody can hear everybody and enjoy everybody. Because that's really what it's all about. It's not about hearing yourself, it's about hearing yourself within the music.
Become one with the instrument, kind of like.
Do what?
It's basically like you become one with your instrument.
One with your instrument, one with your environment, one with your fellow musicians. Eye contact, ear contact, groove contact, things like that.
When we turn, the whole audience becomes one with you.
Well, that can happen. Although, seriously speaking, and I don't mean this the wrong way. Please don't take it the wrong way. I'm not really concerned with the audience. That is a natural. It's like if you go to work and you work real hard.
Side, natural.
It's like you go to work and you work real hard. You're going to make money. It's a natural thing. If you play your heart and you play in sync and everything works, then the audience will come along. You hope anyway. If they're not too drunk. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, hey, you're being yourself.
I hope so.
Well, you're not up there by yourself, right? You have two great friends that have been with you through thick and thin and through lots of fun moments. Who are they and what kind of special meaning do they bring to your life?
Well, Dick Sims and Jamie Oldinger, obviously, they're probably the second band, maybe third band I've ever been in since I started playing. And we just hit it off, and it's a pretty amazing story. I mean, it started with a band called the Prophets, which was Dick Sims, myself, and several other gentlemen.
Right.
And it evolved into some pretty miraculous things, I think. Dick Sims decided that he was going to play the Hammond organ and he had never played the organ before, to my knowledge. I understand from some interviews that he did play piano when he was a kid, but as far as I knew, he was a guitar player. So it was an amazing feat to me for a guitar player to become a very proficient keyboard player. And on top of that, he learned to kick bass pedals. One of our good friends, Skip DePay, sort of inspired us, and I think was inspirational to him. It's the old Jimmy Smith jazz thing where you're kicking bass with either your left hand or your foot, and therefore you have the trio: guitar, organ, and drums. And we got Jamie Oldecker from one of the it was very successful. I don't know if you guys remember the Ropes 5. I mean, they were absolutely the hottest thing going in Tulsa about that time, and for some odd reason, we asked Oldecker to join us, and he came out of that extremely successful band and decided to join with us, and we just, just hooked, and we just fit, because the groove, it's all the things we were just talking about. Everything fit.
And I'll watch you guys up on stage, and of course your eye contact and your movement, as in any band, trying to stay in sync with each other between your movements and pacings and segues in between your songs and what have you.
Well, being a trio makes it a little easier because you have fewer musicians to sync together. And of course, Jamie Oldecker's, I don't know if he's going to hear this, but not to give him too much credit, he sort of, keeps me afloat. I don't have to worry about time.
Heard it here.
When Jamie and I and Dick are playing together, you don't have to worry about time, because the time is right. The time, Oldecker keeps the whole thing
Right on the money.
right on the money. And a lot of times you'll have to struggle with things, but if you're listening to Oldecker and you allow him to be Oldecker, then you don't have any worries at all. And that, my friends, that's like heaven. It's like being in heaven. That's the perfect mix of ecstasy, whatever you want to call it. Ecstasy, not the drug.
Did we get to see that tonight?
To a certain extent. The problem with this gig is that none of us play that often anymore. So we're sort of running on, just instinct a lot. But yes, the endings and the grooves sometimes, but the tunes that we did tonight, 2 of them were original songs written by myself and Walt Richmond, and we only had 1 rehearsal, so you don't get to, and they're not really that groove type oriented. Back in the day, you would get on something and you just lock in on something and you could just do anything you want. But trying to put on a show, a little lot nervous because we don't do this very often, especially me. But I think it worked out pretty good.
What was your moment where you just let loose the most, and what you remember about one of your moments playing together?
I don't know. It's
Probably
there's just a million of them. There's a million of them. Like I say, when the players that you're playing with allow you to be what you really are, which is really what it's all about. It's all good.
It's there a lot.
And if you get a chance to rehearse and you work up your songs and you play together for years and years and years, it becomes instinctive, especially if you do it over and over. Now, the instinct is still there if you haven't seen each other. But that everyday thing, it really works. And you really are happy to be there. And it doesn't matter if the crowd loves you or hates you. You know you did a good job.
A for the night.
Well, like I say, we're dealing with things here that some unfamiliar faces, people that we haven't worked with before, and time, time being
Huge
a factor here. Time between playing together, but all in all, good night. Absolutely, it's good to see everybody.
So
See, that's always been the best thing, isn't it? Huh?
We're so glad you came to
Well,
Kane.
I appreciate that. It's always been the best thing to see each other. And it's always a silly story to say that when we rehearse, we probably have more fun doing other things besides playing music. Such as just visiting, just being buds and being friends, joking with each other.
Was there anything else you'd like to add?
Hey, No. I'm
Can I
done.
cut this?
Cut this, cut this.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, I'm sorry. I don't know if that was any good or
No,
not.
it was wonderful.
Jim?
4, 3.
Hi, I'm Hannah Tabori here at Tulsa Music Sound yesterday, today, and forever, and I'm interviewing Rick Gomez. Thanks for being here.
Oh, you bet.
We're visiting a little bit back in the special room back there, privilege only, first, shall I say. Meeting lots of interesting people, aren't there here?
Oh
tonight?
yeah, it's a big variety.
Yeah, array of just greats, musical great artists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Some of the
say
things
it.
they've done
No.
over the years, just amazing.
And some of your favorite guests or performers and why and how they kind of came to be close to you, who would they be?
Well, Jim Byfield, that you interviewed earlier, we started out together. Our first band, was the same thing.
What was it called?
Us.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it just you and him?
No, it was me and him and Dick Gordon Jr. His dad taught guitar.
Okay.
I used to go out. There was a group here in town a long time ago called The Band. Way before the band that with Lee Von
Right.
Helm and all those guys. There was a group here called The Band.
Okay.
And their guitar player, Gordon Shryock, I used to go out and bug Gordon all the time. How do I get in the band? How do I get in the band? And finally, I guess to get rid of me and to help me,
They kind of
he
pushed
said,
you
well,
in a way.
there's a guitar teacher named Dick Gordon. He may know of somebody that's starting a band.
Right.
And it was good advice because his son, Dick Jr., was wanting to put a band together at that time. And so that's how I got started. We'd go over to their house every Saturday night, set up in the living room and play. And then we'd do some, dances after the football games and high school. The recitals for all of Dick Sr.'s students, we would be the backup band for them. So we would do all these different songs, whatever they were going to play for the recital. So we got to play with a lot of different players, even if they were beginners or whatever. But it was a lot of, variety in the music
Sure.
and stuff, So it was, any opportunity to play. It's just, you love doing it, so you want to just do it. Yeah, it was fun.
But this is your first year, though, here, you said.
Right, I
Coming
was in
here.
Vegas last year.
But did you actually perform tonight also?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. But hopefully we'll have a chance to see you.
Yeah, I'm in the free form, go for it section,
That's
I
right.
guess.
You do the drums.
Yeah.
Now, do you do the fancy flip of the wrist and all that? or-
No, no, I never did twirl sticks and then do the showbiz thing. Some body English, that's okay.
There you go.
But my thing, I try to connect with the audience.
Right.
I try not to play just inside my head.
That's-
But I try to make everybody on stage comfortable so that they can do, the guitar player
Their
can,
job.
play the rhythm they want to and go for what they want to. So they're not trying to do something and they go, what's he doing back there, So if they're comfortable,
Then you'll be.
then my
able to-
job's,
yeah.
successful.
Yeah, I was
That's-
watching earlier some of them doing it. Of course, everyone has their own style, like I said earlier. Like Jim said, each person has their own way. One guitar player is going to be different than the next.
Right. And that's the nice part of it, Otherwise you just need one guitar player.
Sure, and there's no need for guests, anything.
Right, and then it gives more players a job, and then as far as the audience goes, you can find just the exact guitar player you really enjoy listening to.
And go
So,
seek them out.
right, whether it's whoever, so you can link up, and more people have
Favorites.
playing opportunities, and more people can find what they really want to listen to.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
it works out good for everybody.
Phil Driscoll, how did that become part of your life? Now, he was actually in your youth symphony Philharmonic class.
It was
at a young
well, it
age,
was
high school?
yeah. They put together the Tulsa Youth Symphony, and I was in it the first 3 or 4 years they had it. And he came in like the second or third year that it was in existence.
You said he would just kind of whisk in the room and kind of do his deal and
Yeah,
never
he'd come
miss
in
out.
late. Of course,
Of course, he's Phil.
yeah. I mean, he could have had other obligations. I don't
Sure.
know. But he would come in and nail his part. You know, nobody. You know, the conductor didn't even worry about it. Didn't get on it. I mean, you had to audition for this thing, so it would be the best players from all the high schools and maybe the surrounding area in this one orchestra. I think it's still going. Yeah.
So you obviously participated in music all through your life. How long have you been?
I started in 6th grade, and still trying to get good at it. You know.
You played here and there. You said not all.
Right.
Not in
Been
music.
yeah, I've played on the road a lot. Most of my playing career's been on the road, actually. So it's like I started out with a lot of the people that are playing here tonight, but then after college, I was on the road most of the time, so I was gone, half to 2/3 of the year. So I knew everybody, and yet I wasn't around them all the time.
Right.
So.
Looking back.
So I was playing to audiences that didn't know our stuff and having to break new ground.
Sure.
Play to strangers more than, hometown
What
crowd.
were some of the touring greats that you toured with or played with?
Well, probably the biggest one was Roy Clark, but I've done lots of backup work. At times backed up Roger Miller, B.J. Thomas, and Reeve McIntyre. Different times. Things would come up. Yeah, it's a pretty long list of people that I've opened for or backed up on certain occasions.
How does Tulsa history, the music mix, I know we were talking about that earlier, fit into, say, in other markets, music culture?
Yeah, it's just different. It's just outside. It's sort of the feel that players have that come from here. It's just sort of a groove thing. It's sort of laid back and
Tulsa style.
yeah, and not a lot of notes, and it's just real economical. It can be pretty intense, but it's just real unique. It's not like Memphis or any place else, but you can tell that we listen to a lot of people, at different
Right.
places. But Tulsa just always had a real personality to it, because I guess all the players were so close to each other, and would bounce influences off of each other. You just hear certain things. And some of the players here had real unique styles. There's a guy passed away a long time ago, a drummer named Gary Sanders, and he had the really unique, real quirky style. He would do a lick someplace, but it would be in an odd spot where you wouldn't expect one, and it worked. He made it work, and it was like, oh, that was nice. I wouldn't have ever thought of that, and just things like that. His thought process was just a little different, and I just like, yo, you love listening to him, and you pick up stuff, and then you do your version of it.
Sure.
Just apply it to different things.
How would you characterize your style after all that?
I'm kind of flexible. I played in marching band and orchestra and stuff like that, so I have that rudimental school background. But music to me is you have that technique and discipline to not play too much, just play what's needed, leave all the rest out. So you have that discipline and technique that makes you be able to play your instrument efficiently and musically, but then you also have that animal thing, coming from the rock and roll and blues thing, where you can just go for it,
Gut
and you have
feeling.
and you have to do both. You can't do either one or the other. If you just do the animal thing, then you can kind of go nuts, and it's unfocused and undisciplined, and you can't really make heads or tails of it. The other way can be too cold and boring, so you have to have both. They're always balancing out each other, and that's kind of what it takes.
Think of anything else you might like to add?
It's a great town to have grown up in, I tell you. As far as being a musician, it's a great place to come from.
We appreciate the interview. Thank you.
You bet.
4, 3.
Tommy Tripplehorn, thanks for coming.
Anna, good to be with you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we caught you just kind of toward the end of this great musical event. And it looks like it's
Oh, yeah.
one of the first for Tulsa, but we're hoping to see it continue, not die out.
It seems to have the chemistry to keep going. I hope it does. I mean, it's good to see everybody catch up on who's doing what, who's still with us,
Sure.
actually, at our age. Some of us are getting up there.
You, young and handsome, all still, right?
It's all
course.
it's kind of a Dorian Gray thing.
Dorian Gray.
It's,
Oh. You know, you play the guitar.
I am a blues guitarist.
Okay. You still play?
Oh yeah, I work with Bill Davis and David Teagarden, Casey Van Beek on bass, and it's a rhythm and blues band. Bill and I have been involved. We've worked with each other probably 35 years, and he listened to a lot of the same people I did. Teagarden and I grew up together. We went to high school together, and we used to hang out at his house and listen to rhythm and blues and a lot of jazz. I started playing when I was about 14, but the bug was already in
Yeah, I was
place.
going to say when you're 4, probably.
Well, no.
No?
I was musically inclined all through elementary school. I mean, it became obvious, to the music teachers, but I didn't pick up on it that I had the talent.
Right.
And I went home with a gentleman named Bill Ramsey, who I saw earlier this evening. And he had some albums. I was like 12 years old. He had he had a Little Walter album and a Sonny Boy Williams album. And when I heard that funky blues music, it virtually was like lightning, just
Start
nailing
dancing in
my
your
spine
boots.
to the floor. I mean, I just said, I have got to learn how to do that so that I can do that anytime I want.
There you go.
And Bill Ramsey played guitar, so I started watching him and started taking from Dick Gordon. And of course, I grew faster than my teachers were able to keep up with once I got started. And I remember Gary Gilmore and I, now he was the bass player from here in Tulsa who played with Chuck Blackwell, and they played with Taj Mahal
Okay.
back in the 60s. And Gilmore and I lived next door to each other, and we started playing together, and he was playing bass, and I was playing guitar, and I remember we went over to a little record shop over by the house, and first time I heard Freddie King, and I just went, well, it doesn't get any better than that. And so I was off and running, just learning, trying to learn everything that Freddie King did, I listened to a lot of T-Bone Walker, B.B. King, the early stuff before the white community got a hold of him. The old, the B.B. King orchestra. In fact, that's all remained intact. B.B. King is still working with an excellent orchestra. Always travels with good orchestra. I got to see B.B. King live, 44 years ago.
Don't
down-
start dating yourself now.
Well, yeah, I've been.
You've been inspired by lots of people.
A lot of it was rhythm and blues, just Delta blues, Chicago blues, Kansas City blues, Big Joe Turner. I was always fascinated with that stuff. And when I was like 19, I got a phone call from Carl Radel, and he said that Leon Russell and him wanted me to come out and join Gary Lewis and the Playboys, which I did. And that was a fascinating experience because Gary hired his drum teacher at that time, Jim Keltner, to play drums. And we went to Leon and we said, what are we supposed to do with Jim Keltner? He's a jazz player. He doesn't know how to, you know, he's not a rock and roller. And Leon just said, he said, trust me, he's got what it takes. Just tell him what you want. Well, Carl and I pulled him aside and told him that he needed to listen to Little Richard and the Upsetters on specialty records, and Muscle Shoals band, any of the stuff by Howlin' Wolf, and just keep it simple, just bass drum on 1 and 3, snare on 2 and 4. Well, we took Keltner out on the road, and he was magnificent, played beautifully, but about the first week out, of course, Gary had out #1 hit records, and so we were traveling, you know, they were big concerts, and this was before sound engineering, before you had a soundboard and an engineer, so you just had to play loud. No microphones on anything. And Keltner, bless his heart, he showed up, he opened up the door to get in the limousine to go to a concert about a week out, and he had both of his hands. It looked like he had giant white mittens. He had them wrapped, you know, because his hands had just turned to like raw hamburger. I mean, you know, playing the drums that loud. And but he was off and running, and pretty soon he was doing sessions, and he's gone on, of course, play with everybody, you know.
Those
under
were the
sun.
days. Those were
Yeah.
the days, huh?
Well, my brother called it to my attention that all of this was happening in 1965. This was like 10, 15 years after rock and roll came into existence. And
Way before my time.
I'm
No,
sure
way
of that.
Before.
I'm sure of that. It was a fascinating time because, ironically, out in L.A., you had the flower child hippie revolution going on. The equal rights was coming to them.
Yeah.
There was all kinds of marches. The whole society and its rules all changed radically in the 60s. And of course, you had Jimi Hendrix coming on the scene. Carl Radel pulled me aside and said, you got to listen to this guy. And so you had everybody, all the people, a lot of the people. Neil Young, I used to see him up at a guy's house. He was working with Buffalo Springfield. Of course, he's Neil Young, totally unique.
Just so many different stories, and maybe at some point we'll have to have a take 2 interview.
Yeah, I have just
Just catching the ice on the
put the
cake
camera
right now.
on me, and I'm good to go.
It's so nice to have you.
Anna, it's a pleasure. Thanks for listening.
No, thank
I
you
did
so
give you
much.
a word.
Sure you did. Lots of wonderful history and very interesting.
Tried to, sum it all up.
Appreciate that.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Here in the Canes Ballroom, talking with Jamie Oldecker. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Jamie, tell me about the old days. You know, it's kind of hard sometimes to think about it. We saw the picture.
The old days.
Then we
Well,
looked
back
at
in the
back
old
then and
days.
now.
Yes. Regarding which part of the old
Dick
days?
Sims and the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yes.
Stuff
We
there.
we were playing with Phil Driscoll at the
Mhm.
time,
Good old Phil.
and we actually got a call to do the Ed Sullivan Show. I think it was 1971,
Mhm.
right before they took him off the air.